Okay, well, apparently I got a pretty bad case of algae growing on these rocks. And it's not the nanocryllia phytoplankton. I can tell that because it's a completely different shade of green. Because it is kind of a grayish, bluish green, I suspect it may be Cyanobacteria. So I'm probably going to break down this jar, probably both of these jars. There's some stuff on here. And I'm probably going to have to sterilize these rocks, start over. But there's a lesson here. I believed because these rocks had come out of someone else's fish tank, but they had been outside in the weather for multiple months, that anything from the previous tank must have died. And anything from, being outdoors on land wouldn't have an effect, because most land and freshwater algae can't live in salt water. But I forgot that some things, particularly cyanobacteria, can form spores and survive even completely dry. So I'm not happy, but there is a lesson to be learned here. And since I have this opportunity, I may as well go ahead and bust some myths about cyanobacteria. First off, we have to understand it's not all one species. Clearly, whatever this is a marine species that lives in salt water. But you can also have it in freshwater tanks, but it's not the same species. Even within fresh and salt water, there are multiple different species. Now, I've read where a lot of people online say, oh, don't use harsh chemicals, just do it the natural way. Yeah, all you gotta do is just, clean your tank real good, get your nitrates and phosphates down to 0, change your filter, and turn out the lights for like 3 days, and everything will be fine. Well, if you have a mild case of not super aggressive cyanobacteria, that may work. I saw one video online where a guy was saying that it never really worked for him to completely eradicate it, but by also doing water changes, and when the water was low he would add some hydrogen peroxide and then suck out as much of the water as he could and then put fresh water in, then he was able to keep it under control, but it would keep coming back. And let me tell you a little story about the tank I used to assist with in the business office back in Florida where I used to work. It had the worst case of blue-green algae that I've ever seen. It actually grew thick in a mat. Now, not every algae that grows in like a mat layer is cyanobacteria. But this one was a dark blue, and it was grew in a thick mat that coated everything, and it smelled terrible, which not all of them do that. But in this case, it totally smelled terrible. Someone at work actually threw up because it smelled so bad. And we tried cleaning the tank. We tried doing actually a 6-day blackout. We tried doing, huge water changes. We tried, changing the filter media. We tried everything. We tried doing the normal algicide, and absolutely nothing would kill this. Finally, the manager said that, it was making people sick and we had to either, fix it or get rid of the tank. And what we finally had to do was we broke down the tank, we took the fish, put them in like a big cheese puff container, a really big one that had been cleaned out. And then we took the plants. There was some Anubias and some Java ferns and some other stuff, and we took them, I actually soaked them in the 3% hydrogen peroxide you get at the grocery store. No dilution, for 30 seconds. The Anubias and the Java fern survived. I think there were a couple other plants that survived. I can tell you from separate experience, Java moss would not survive that. But after we did that, then we put the plants in these 1-gallon containers, and we just pounded them with antibiotics to kill any trace of the cyanobacteria. And we cleaned the lid of the tank with pure bleach on rags, no dilution at all. And we could have done the same for the tank, but I found a really cheap deal for another 10-gallon tank. We just got another tank. Then we put an entirely new filter, all new gravel. There was some driftwood, which someone took home and boiled for over an hour, but we didn't even use that again. And that was what it took to finally eradicate the cyanobacteria in our work tank. I've heard some people say that cyanobacteria is very easy to get rid of. I've heard some people say, well, you'll never get rid of it, but just keep using hydrogen peroxide and you'll keep it in check. And what we had at work was the most aggressive, dangerous strain of cyanobacteria I've ever seen in my life. Oh, I forgot to mention, we also tried buying fish that eat algae. They died. It killed any fish that ate it. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. And I'm also not joking that someone threw up over it. I mean, literally, it smells so horrible. So, like I said, that was the worst cyanobacteria I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, the main reason I'm saying this is because I want people to understand that it's not just one species of cyanobacteria. There are many different species. Some may not be that aggressive, and if you just turn out the lights and get your nitrate and phosphate down to 0, you can kill them. Others can form endospores, so they'll keep coming back. And there was that one guy who couldn't afford to break down all his tanks, but he kept dosing hydrogen peroxide every time he did a water change twice a week, and he just kept it in check. There's some videos on YouTube about doing that. And there's the case we had at work where this was the most aggressive I've ever seen. It covered everything. It killed fish that ate it, and it smelled horrible. So basically, there was no choice but to break down the tank. Anything that was in the tank that you wanted to save had to be scrubbed with bleach and or soaked in huge amounts of antibiotics for a couple of weeks. But we did succeed in killing that cyanobacteria at work, and once we reset up the tank, we got a little bit of black beard algae, but that was not bad. That was easy to control. So we just got some marine snails for that. But I just wanted to sort of almost make a public safety announcement about it. And the main lesson at least for saltwater tanks, is just because rocks have been outside where, you know, anything from the last saltwater tank is long dried out, well, that does not prove that it is dead, because some things do form spores.